Our experiment involves a technique called chromatography. Chromatography is a method to separate a mixture, and you may have seen it on TV before when you're watching like a crime show where they analyze some mixture, maybe a gasoline found in somebody's garage, and it has a certain pattern of peaks, and then they analyze the gasoline that was found at the scene of the fire, and it matches, and they say, oh, this gasoline from the garage had a common source, and so they can spot that they're the same mixture. Anyway, chromatography does separate a mixture into its components, but a lot of times the idea is to identify it, to identify what the mixture is. And it involves both a mobile and a stationary phase. So a mobile phase is a liquid or a gas. It's something that can flow through the stationary phase. The stationary phase is something that's porous. You can think of it like a sponge, and you can imagine a sponge with air or water flowing through it slowly. In our experiment, our mobile phase is going to be a solution eluting solution. Sometimes we just call it the solvent. And our stationary phase is going to be our paper. So our paper is kind of porous, and we're going to set it up so that our solution will soak up through the paper. Elution is that process when we basically will have our paper and we'll set it down into some of the eluting solution, and by capillary action it will move up the paper. That's the process of elution. And any compounds or mixtures that we put down here will get moved up by the solution. Okay. So the retention factor, the RF, the retention factor is a measure of how far up your compound moves. In other words, you're going to start with it down low, but at the end it may end up higher, and you're going to compare that to how far the solvent went. So it's always the distance that the spot travels, which will be in centimeters, divided by the distance that the mobile phase or solution went, which will be in centimeters. And you'll get a number, and that number will not have units because these cancel. So RFs are unitless, and it will always be 0 point something. It will always be less than 1, 0 point something, because your spot can't end up traveling further than the solution.